It was supposed to be a routine judicial oversight hearing, calm, civil, uneventful. The kind of hearing where the media yawned and left after the first hour. But this one had something different. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett had been invited to speak on transparency within the federal court system, specifically about lifetime appointments and perceived biases in rulings. No one expected fireworks. Not from her. And certainly not from the bench. Seated at the head of the hearing table was Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, respected, brilliant, unshakable. Her presence was meant to signal authority, not controversy. But things changed the moment Crockett raised her voice. With all due respect, Justice Sotomayor, Crockett began, her tone firm but respectful, you're asking us to trust a system that has become increasingly opaque. Americans deserve clarity. Sotomayor's gaze narrowed. She interjected. Congresswoman, this is not a platform for personal opinion. Please keep your statements aligned with the topic at hand. There was a sharp intake of breath in the room. Cameras shifted focus. Staffers froze. But Jasmine didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a razor. Madam Justice, if silence is required to protect comfort, then perhaps it's the comfort that needs questioning. The room went dead silent. Even Sotomayor blinked. And just like that, what was supposed to be a quiet hearing, turned into the most talked about moment in Washington. The silence after Crockett's words wasn't empty, it was loaded. The kind of silence that made even seasoned journalists glance up from their phones. Sotomayor adjusted her glasses slowly, her expression unreadable. Congresswoman, she said calmly, you are walking dangerously close to questioning the integrity of the court. Crockett didn't hesitate. Respectfully, I'm not questioning integrity. I'm questioning insulation. The American people are watching judges make decisions that shape generations, but without accountability. If even this conversation makes people uncomfortable, maybe that's why it's necessary. Whispers rippled across the chamber. One senator leaned over to another and murmured something with raised brows. From the back, a reporter from C-SPAN whispered to her cameraman, get ready. This is about to go viral. Sotomayor's tone sharpened. This hearing is not a trial. You are not here to cross-examine the judiciary. And then came Crockett's boldest move yet. She stood. Calmly. Respectfully. But she stood. I didn't come here to cross-examine, Justice. I came here because too many Americans are scared to even question. And I refuse to be part of a government that rewards silence more than it protects truth. A stunned hush fell over the room. Even Sotomayor, for a moment, said nothing. The cameras kept rolling. Phones buzzed in pockets as clips were already being uploaded. And the world outside the chamber had no idea what storm was brewing. By the time Jasmine Crockett resumed her seat, a visible shift had taken place in the room. What began as a measured exchange had now turned into a full-blown moment of reckoning. Justice Sotomayor, usually composed and deliberate, hesitated before responding. Her fingers tapped the desk, eyes fixed on the Congresswoman. Let the record show, she said slowly, that this hearing was intended to promote dialogue, not to stage a protest. Crockett's reply was swift. Dialogue without challenge isn't dialogue. It's decoration. Boom. The sentence landed like a gavel crack. One of the younger aides in the corner gasped audibly. A Republican senator tilted his head as if to say, did she really just say that? A Democratic colleague leaned over to Crockett and whispered, you're not just speaking truth, you're rewriting the moment. Outside the chamber, the clip was already flooding social media feeds. The hashtag Crockett vs. Sotomayor trended within the hour. Memes, commentary, even bipartisan praise began circulating. Inside, Justice Sotomayor straightened her spine. Congresswoman Crockett, perhaps you should remember who you're speaking to. But Jasmine only gave a polite smile. And perhaps, Madam Justice, we should all remember who we're supposed to be speaking for. And just like that, staffers, viewers, and even a few senators were no longer asking if Jasmine Crockett had gone too far. They were asking if maybe, just maybe, she was exactly what the system needed. As the hearing recessed for a short break, the air outside the chamber felt different. Staffers exchanged glances. Journalists sprinted toward their press booths. Lobbyists were already typing furious emails. Inside a private corridor just off the hearing room, a cluster of lawmakers huddled. Senator Burns, a moderate Democrat, spoke first. "She's playing with fire," he said, glancing toward the door. "You don't go toe-to-toe with a Supreme Court justice on live television." But Senator Langford, an independent with a reputation for cutting through political theater, shook his head. "No, she didn't play with fire. She brought a match to a room full of gas and finally lit it." In another hallway, aides from Sotomayor's office debated how to respond. "We can't make this a feud," one warned. "If we push back too hard, we validate her." Meanwhile, Jasmine sat alone in her temporary office, calm, scrolling through the flood of public reactions. Thousands of comments poured in. "This is the leadership we've been waiting for." Finally, someone says what we're all thinking. "Crockett for Senate?" She exhaled slowly, not out of relief, but focus. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Congresswoman Lydia Ramos, a senior House member with deep connections and a reputation for backroom power plays. Lydia stepped in and closed the door quietly. "You've got their attention now, Jasmine," she said, folding her arms. "The question is, what are you going to do with it?" Jasmine looked up from her phone, locking eyes with Congresswoman Lydia Ramos. "I didn't say what I said for attention," Jasmine replied. "I said it because I meant every word." Lydia nodded. "I know. That's why it worked." The older Congresswoman walked further into the room, her heels echoing softly against the stone floor. "You just challenged one of the most respected jurists in America, on national television, and you didn't flinch. That's going to send waves across every branch." "I'm not trying to start a war," Jasmine said. "But if the systems become untouchable, then it's already broken." Lydia's face softened. "I've been in this game a long time. You don't often see someone walk into a chamber and shift the narrative in one sentence. But now that you've done it, there's no going back." Jasmine stood up and moved toward the window, looking out over the Capitol. Reporters were already assembling outside for the post-hearing buzz. "They'll try to paint it as disrespect," Jasmine said quietly. "They'll say I attacked the court. But all I did was ask questions they've been dodging for years." Lydia joined her at the window. "Let them talk. What matters is that people heard you. Loud and clear." Suddenly, Jasmine's phone lit up. A call from a number she didn't recognize. Washington area code. She answered. A smooth voice came through. "Congresswoman Crockett. This is Chief of Staff for a sitting Supreme Court Justice. He would like to meet, off the record." Jasmine's eyebrows lifted slightly. She glanced at Lydia, who raised hers right back. Now the real game had begun. Jasmine hesitated for only a moment before replying, "Tell him I'll be there, name the time and place." The voice on the other end gave her a location, a quiet conference room inside a secured wing of the Capitol. No press. No aides. No cameras. Just a conversation. As Jasmine hung up, Lydia Ramos gave her a skeptical look. "Be careful. When power invites you into a quiet room, it's rarely to congratulate you." Jasmine nodded. "That's fine. I'm not going in for congratulations, I'm going in so they understand I'm not going anywhere." An hour later, she walked down the narrow corridor leading to the secure meeting space. No signage. Just a uniformed Capitol officer checking clearance. He nodded silently and let her in. Inside, the room was stark. Polished table, 4 chairs, dim overhead lights. And sitting at the far end, Supreme Court Justice Elena Kessler, known for her strategic mind and behind-the-scenes influence. Jasmine was surprised. She had expected someone else. Kessler offered a thin smile. "Don't worry. Justice Sotomayor won't be joining us. She prefers to let the media spin this out. I, however, prefer facts over theater." Jasmine remained standing. "Then let's talk." Kessler motioned to a chair. "Sit. What you said today, it's already reverberating. You've peeled back a curtain most people don't dare to touch. And that's not inherently wrong. But it's dangerous." Jasmine's tone was steady. "Then maybe the danger isn't me. Maybe it's what's behind the curtain." Justice Kessler leaned forward, folding her hands. "What is it you really want, Congresswoman? Be honest." Jasmine's response came without hesitation. "Change. Not for headlines. For people. Real accountability. Real access. And I won't ask for permission to demand it." Kessler studied her for a long moment. Then, with the faintest of nods, "Then you're not just a spark. You're a fuse." Jasmine didn't blink. "If I'm a fuse, then Washington better start checking what it's wired to." Justice Kessler let out a quiet breath. Not quite a laugh, but close. "You remind me of someone I once knew. Young, principled, and unwilling to wait her turn. She's now a name on a courthouse wall. Revered. But isolated. I didn't run for Congress to blend in," Jasmine said, her voice even. "I ran because people back home are tired of waiting for justice that never comes." Kessler nodded, more serious now. "Then listen closely. You've pierced the shield. Publicly. The judiciary doesn't forget that. And neither do the people who benefit from its silence. You've exposed fault lines that others will try to bury again, through pressure, distraction, or worse." Jasmine stood, her chair sliding back with a soft scrape. "Let them try." Kessler raised a hand. "Just know, if you keep pushing, this won't stay a story. It'll become a war. The kind fought in hearings, headlines, and backroom deals." Jasmine offered a firm smile. "Then they better bring everything they've got. Because I'm not backing down. And neither are the people I represent." As she turned to leave, Kessler called out one last time. "You just shifted the balance of the court's relationship with Congress. That's not noise, Congresswoman. That's legacy." Jasmine paused at the door, then answered without turning back. "Good. Then let the history books get it right." And with that, she stepped out into a hallway now echoing with footsteps, and change. The next morning, Capitol Hill was buzzing. Overnight, every major network had replayed the moment between Justice Sotomayor and Jasmine Crockett. Editorials were pouring in, some praising Crockett as fearless, others accusing her of breaking protocol and disrespecting the judiciary. Cable news panels were on fire. "This was unprecedented," one legal analyst said. "She said what millions feel but are too scared to voice," another countered. "She may have just crossed a line you can't uncross," warned a veteran pundit. Inside the House chamber, the Speaker had already received several concerns from high-ranking members who claimed Crockett had destabilized the decorum of interbranch relations. A resolution to censure her was even being floated behind closed doors. But Crockett was already 3 steps ahead. She had released a statement just after sunrise: "If asking for judicial transparency is controversial, then let's have that controversy. I didn't come here to be quiet. I came here to represent the unheard." She included the full transcript of her exchange with Sotomayor. Unedited. No spin. Just the facts. By noon, the response was electric. Progressive leaders began to rally behind her. A group of law professors from across the country published a letter of support titled, "The People Deserve a Say." Civil rights groups reposted her speech. Even some conservative commentators grudgingly admitted she asked real questions, brave ones. Still, the threats of formal reprimand loomed. And then, unexpectedly, an unlikely ally reached out. A former federal judge, once considered for the Supreme Court himself, contacted her office. He wanted to speak. Off the record. Because apparently, there were things Jasmine didn't know yet. Things that made her bold stand not just necessary, but long overdue. Jasmine met the former judge at a discreet cafe tucked behind an old federal building, no press, no aides, just a quiet corner and a pot of black coffee between them. He was sharp-eyed, mid-60s, with a voice like gravel smoothed by law books. He wasted no time. "I watched what you did," he said, stirring his cup without looking up. "Took guts. But you need to understand what you're walking into." "I'm listening," Jasmine replied. "There's a reason the judiciary resists oversight. It's not about independence, it's about insulation. Lifetime appointments, untraceable financial influences, private dinners with powerful donors. It's a fortress. And most of the public has no clue what goes on behind those marble walls." Jasmine's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying there's corruption?" The judge exhaled. "Not always the kind that leaves a paper trail. But influence? Quiet loyalty to powerful interests? Absolutely. And it's growing." He pulled out a worn envelope and slid it across the table. "These are internal memos. Years old, but revealing. Judges asking staffers to suppress certain reports. Meetings that were never logged. Pressure from think tanks posing as legal advocates." Jasmine didn't touch the envelope yet. "Why give this to me?" "Because you're the only one who said it out loud. You cracked the glass. Now you have a choice: walk away and they'll let this moment pass, or dig deeper and make enemies powerful enough to ruin you." She finally took the envelope, her fingers firm. "If I walk away, I'm proving them right." The judge nodded slowly. "Then you'd better armor up. Because they don't play fair. And they don't lose quietly." As Jasmine stood to leave, her phone buzzed. Another call. This one from the House Ethics Committee. The subject line was clear: urgent review, Representative Jasmine Crockett's conduct toward the judiciary. The war had officially begun. The Ethics Committee hearing was scheduled within 48 hours, an unusual speed that spoke volumes. The chamber was packed. Reporters filled the gallery. Lawmakers lined the dais. Jasmine Crockett sat alone at the witness table, the envelope from the retired judge secured in her folder, though not yet revealed. A senior committee member, gray-haired and firm-voiced, addressed her sharply: "Congresswoman Crockett, you are being reviewed for conduct that may be considered disrespectful to a sitting Supreme Court justice and potentially damaging to the integrity of interbranch relations. Do you have a statement?" Jasmine didn't hesitate. She rose, calm and poised. "Yes, Mr. Chairman. I do." She opened her folder and held up the now familiar transcript of her words during the original hearing. "This is what I said. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't reckless. It was truthful. And no amount of formality or political theater will make that truth disappear." Gasps rippled through the room as she then slid the judge's envelope onto the table. These documents were provided by a former federal judge who witnessed firsthand the erosion of transparency within our judiciary. If this body is genuinely concerned about decorum, then it should be equally concerned about what's been happening behind closed doors for decades. The chairman tried to interrupt. Jasmine held her ground. "No, Mr. Chairman, you asked for my statement. You're getting it. I took an oath to defend the Constitution, not coddle powerful institutions that have grown too comfortable in the shadows." The gallery erupted into applause. Cameras captured every second. Later that evening, her speech trended #1 across all platforms. Protesters gathered outside the Capitol holding signs that read, let her speak. We stand with Crockett. Transparency is not a crime. And just before midnight, Justice Sonia Sotomayor released a rare public statement. While I may not agree with Congresswoman Crockett's tone, I respect her right to demand accountability. The judiciary, like every branch of government, must be willing to hear the concerns of the people we serve. That statement, calm, measured, and historic, shifted the entire narrative. The Ethics Committee quietly dropped its review days later. And Jasmine Crockett? She wasn't silenced. She was launched. Her bold stand didn't just stop the room. It started a movement.